Hello and welcome to episode 1246 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Monday, January 15th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, coming to you from a freezing Texas here. Joined as always by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir. It's frigid. How you doing?
It's a nice little change of pace that you're the one freezing, that I'm not freezing. I mean, it's still cold in my office. It's probably like 45 right now, but
But
like
not,
it's not 17.
it's not 17. I live in Texas. I'm supposed to be avoiding this crap. Unbelievable. Thankfully, power's still holding. If this is a message just to you, because we would have fixed it by the time the pod listeners listen to it. But if I disappear, the power went out, and I'll be back as soon as I can.
I'm
But
keeping it in.
even if it's a 30-minute,
Yeah, it's like, wow,
30 minutes of
Justin
dead
and
air.
Paul did a 7-hour podcast. It's just me like, I wonder when Paul's coming back.
I wonder. Oh, this delay was 3 hours. But yeah, so far so good. We were actually most worried for it this morning. So the fact that we're still good here in the afternoon, or yeah, it is the afternoon now at 12:20, it is hopeful. But we'll see. We got our stupid ass grid here in Texas. We won't get into it, but it is cold all across the country. We need the hot stove to get going. You said, "Where's the hot stove on your sign there?"
Yeah.
It's true, right? Like the moves are dying, and we could use it just for the idea of warming up by the virtual fire there because it is freezing. You guys talked about the Jordan Hicks move, moving him to starter, which is interesting. I haven't listened to the episode yet. What was your general takeaway? Are you excited about this as a Giants fan?
Not particularly. I mean, like, it's whatever. Like, I mean, at first I was like, I can't believe they spent this money on a guy who's probably going to end up in their bullpen. But even if he did, like, whatever, it's 11 million a year, and
won't kill him.
He's when healthy, Jordan Hicks is a very good pitcher,
Coming
like a
off
very
a
good reliever.
really nice season, worth noting, but as a reliever, not as a starter.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, in the way I comped it yesterday with Jason was, I feel like the Giants are an organization that is the type of dynasty fantasy player you don't want to be. Like, they've got a toe in kind of
Always in
both.
between.
Yeah, both pools. Like, either you want to be really good or you want to be really bad and rebuild your farm system. I like this. Like, if they had gotten, let's say they signed the remaining four major free agents, right? They signed Snell, Jordan Montgomery, Bellinger, and Matt Chapman, right? They signed all four of those guys, spent a bunch of money. Are they even the second best team in this division?
I think those four would make them better than the Diamondbacks, and I love the baby snakes, but that would be some really nice additions. But to your point, they'd have to go by four pretty major free agents. So,
which
like,
they're not going to do, right?
No,
like,
exactly. It's not going to happen. They would need all four for me to put them above the Diamondbacks, and they're not going to do that.
Yeah. So, like, to me, like, why are you making these moves, and why aren't you just embracing the fact that the Dodgers are leaps and bounds ahead of you and just rebuild your farm? Like,
and the World Series runner-up,
yeah,
is opening a window. And the Padres,
the Padres are still good. Like, I know the Padres traded away Soto, but like, they're still better than the Giants right now. So, like, just embrace the suck a little bit. You won your 3 World Series, in recent memory, and now be okay with losing for a little bit. And
how much does 22 have a pull of, like, wow, we did this
21
2 years ago, or 21? Yeah, we did this 3 years ago now, though, I guess. So
I think that ruined everything. I think they were going to embrace the suck, and I think that 107 game winning season for the Giants either fooled them into thinking that they were a good team that could win a championship, or at least gave them the fear that, oh no, we can't go from 107 wins to 70 wins and have the fan base not erupt. And I think that's just a bad process. Like,
yeah, because they're going to do it. They're going to go from 107 to 70 here in a moment if they're not careful. 81 in 2022, 79 last year. There's a chance that it goes lower this year, even with some nice additions. Like, I love the Jung Lee signing. I don't hate this Hicks signing, but what else did they really bring in to prevent them from doing that? in a division that's getting tougher too. We have to keep reiterating. Diamondbacks are good, Dodgers amazing, Padres strong. Rockies are still eating glue in the corner, but you know, even them, I don't know how far behind the Giants I put them.
Yeah,
More
and
so due to the Giants not being great than the Rockies doing anything special.
yeah, I just to me like they have not done a great job of building a good farm system that can translate into major league talent, especially on the offensive side, where it's difficult to get free agents in general to want to sign in San Francisco because of the cost of
Sure.
living and the taxes. We saw, the Dodgers, let people, put their payments out into, 30 years in the future so that way they could pay their taxes after they retired. Um,
Genius.
yeah, it is. But like for hitters, like why would you want to go if you expect to have another shot at a new contract? Like you're in that park, so like they have to become better at developing hitting talent, especially so that way they can, because pitchers will want to come there. Like that's
Yeah.
it's a good place to
Any
pitch.
pitcher will go pitch in San Francisco. Hitters a little bit more dubious, especially if you're a lefty.
It's like the opposite problem that the Rockies have, right? Like the Rockies,
Yes.
like hitters will go there, no problem, but pitchers, like, you'd have to really, really overpay even just to keep someone
Yeah.
that's been in your system, much less someone who hasn't. So, I don't know. I think the Giant, like, I'm grateful, and I shouldn't be complaining because, like, they did, give us 3 World Series in 5 years, and
True.
beggars shouldn't be like choosers, and winners
But you
shouldn't
still
be
want your team to
complainers.
make good moves though too.
I
And so
want
I
a good
understand.
process. Like
Exactly.
I don't mind losing. Like it's just like in a fantasy league, right? Like I don't like I want to win. Obviously I want to win. But like if I'm going to lose, I want it to be a matter of like, hey, I had a good process coming in and it just didn't work out for one reason or another. I don't want it to be like my 2022 season where like I lost and I had a bad process.
Exactly.
So like for me, like I just want to see the team have a better process in terms of building their organization back up.
I think that's totally fair. So we'll see what happens with the Giants and the Jordan Hicks move, but it, it's okay. I wish the best for him because he is a fun player, and I want to see Jordan Hicks be able to start with his nasty stuff. I'm just nervous about it. So, all right, let's dive into the hot corner. We can't get the hot stove going. Let's get the hot corner going. We're getting something hot to combat today's weather, Justin. So we're going to jump to the hot corner and start our tour there. Interesting position still. Definitely not of the depth of first or second that I think we just saw in our first 2 previews here. There's some studs at the top, but then I think as early as that second tier, you got some big question marks amongst these next stars. But let's start with the cream of the crop, the hot cornerstones here. José Ramírez with a 14 ADP. This is since Christmas at the Draft Champions. For the Draft Champions drafts at the NFBC, you can just do 1225 through 115. You get 14 drafts of data. And José Ramírez is carrying a 14 ADP, so just inside the first round. Austin Riley at 20 and Rafael Devers at 25. There's actually a 4th guy who's in between Devers and Riley, but we're going to get to him in a moment because I think he's being way overdrafted. But let's start with José Ramírez. Not bad to be able to get him at the turn of the first round. Still a very good player. Obviously, things came down in Cleveland last year. Wasn't his fault, though. He went 24-28 with damn near the same line that he had in 2022. He is just a stud. Age 31. Any concerns about where José Ramírez is going? Are you still drafting him as a cornerstone in the first, second round?
I mean, I think this is like an amazing spot to get José Ramírez. It's hard because every time I go to set my KDS and try to figure out where I want to draft from, like I look at like guys like José Ramírez at the back end, and I go, man, I really love like the ability to get a José Ramírez,
Mm-hmm.
that late. Currently he's like the 15th player off the board, like, which
Yeah,
means
in
if
a
you've got the
DC, you can go like Ramirez Cole, Ramirez Otani,
yeah,
Ramirez
like
Seager.
And there's worlds in which you can get like Ramirez, Trey Turner, who were the top 2 picks in the draft not too long ago.
Yeah.
Or even like a Ramirez, like Bryce Harper, like, I know not everybody wants to start off corner, but like Ramirez is about as steady as you can get, right? I mean, he's got 3 straight seasons with at least 636 plate appearances, hit at least 24 home runs, and stolen at least 20 bases. And the last 2 seasons, 280, 282 in 2022 and 2023, respectively. So, like, it's about as safe a profile as you can get at a position that dries up. Like, it has, I think it's
Exactly.
better than it was last year, but I think it's
because some
still,
guys stepped up and some
yeah,
newcomers have risen, but still.
it's still got some pretty deep drop offs, and I think it dries up after
And you
a
can
fair amount.
get 20 steals from third, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing too. You're not really usually
Without
expecting
sacrificing the power.
bingo. And you know what's funny about Ramirez is like when you're looking over his profile, it's not even readily apparent where the 2020 season comes in because he still went 17-10 that year.
Yeah.
In the 58 games that he played, which is just crazy. I mean, it is clearly different than the 2020 seasons that he put up, but you're like, damn, you only needed 2 months to go 17-10. That's pretty hot. But Jose Ramirez is an absolute stud. I'll take him in the mid to late first round for sure. Definitely in the second round. He's wonderful. Let's go to the 2 big power options. Kind of a righty, or excuse me, well, it could be a righty lefty version of each other, but I was going to say an AL NL version of each other is kind of how I see Riley and Devers in my mind's eye. Do you have a preference between the two? Let's start there with Riley and Devers.
I seem to land on Riley more often than I land on Devers. I think the lineup is just a little bit better, or actually not a little bit better, better than it is in Boston. And so, like, I see a guy who, like had 117 runs scored last year in Riley and go, yeah, I think that's repeatable. Like, I don't know that I would project that. And when I finish my third base ranks, we'll see where I land. But like 100, 30 home runs, I think they're very close though. So like, it's not like, oh, I missed out on Riley. Now what do I do? Like, I just go to Devers, right? So I think they're going to be on a lot of my teams. And I mean, I think I've drafted Riley twice in 5 drafts already. So
hard to go wrong getting in that lineup too, right?
Yeah, like the lineup's just so good. The park is so good. Like there is like some fear that like the batting average at some point may drop down because he doesn't make like amazing contact in the zone. But this almost feels a little bit like a Tim Anderson situation where like it was so hard to figure out why Tim Anderson kept hitting for average, but he just always did.
Yeah.
And yes, Tim Anderson fell off last year, but like you still got 5 or 6 really great years of Tim Anderson before he fell off a little bit.
And that was like, I mean, I think that was kind of an injury-addled season. Like he played
it's
a
just
decent
disaster
bit, but
season. Like,
yeah,
injuries and playing in Chicago,
everything fell apart.
Could not have been fun. So like, Anderson, obviously we're talking about third base, but Tim Anderson's one of those guys I'm targeting even without a team yet. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's, obviously one is Jose Ramirez, and then my kind of 2A and 2B are Riley and Devers. So I think they're both fantastic options to fall back on.
I can go either way with them. I really do have them kind of interchangeable. Maybe the tiebreaker is that Atlanta is just better.
Yeah.
So give me that. If I am situating them, which obviously I will in a ranking, it will be Riley ahead of Devers. But like you said, Riley goes, cool, I'll take Devers. Devers goes, bang, I'm getting Riley. No big deal. So those are the three studs. Now, we do have a group here, the next stars, that could jump into this level, but I don't think any of them are established enough to be up there. Even though the one guy has an ADP, and some of you may have guessed that is Elly De La Cruz. So he headlines our next stars group with an ADP of 23, Gunnar Henderson at 33, Royce Lewis at 54, Ha-Seong Kim at 84. We discussed him at second base, so we probably won't say much about him here. Josh Jung at 109 and Spencer Steer at 112. We discussed him at first base, so we probably won't say a ton here. Let's have the Elly discussion because we have to. I mean, this price is sky high though, and it makes me nervous. You know, we might talk more about him at short because he qualifies there too. But I think if I am drafting him, it's because I want him at third, if I'm being honest, because of the lack of depth. But I just don't think I can pay this price for somebody that I don't think it's likely, but could reasonably be back in AAA this year if he plays like he did in the second half a whole bunch again. So what do we think here with Elly De La Cruz?
I mean, this isn't a discussion about whether you want to play him at short or whether you want to play him at third. This is all a discussion about risk tolerance.
Yeah.
And I maintain that when I am drafting in my first 3 to 4 rounds of any size league, right? And really usually deeper, though we're going to talk about a guy that I've broken that rule with here in a little bit. I want to draft for the least risk possible. I am drafting not for the upside necessarily, but for the downside. And I think a lot of people, and the reason why Elly De La Cruz is in the second round of drafts right now, are drafting because of the upside. They see this immense upside from Elly De La Cruz where he could just hit a ton of home runs, he could steal a ton of bases, and they're going, this guy could win me my league. How do I pass up on him?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not factoring into the equation that what you just said. There is a chance. I think I'm a little bit more bearish on this, or maybe bullish. I don't know which one I'm supposed to.
Bearish would be your negative on.
Yeah, I'm negative on his
outlook.
ability to stay in the major leagues.
You're bearish on Elly as a whole, on Elly De La Cruz.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I understand, like, he's going to be given every opportunity to succeed. I think he will start the year with either the third base or the shortstop job. But their GM has made comments like that he's not guaranteed to even start with a team. And there is an overcrowded situation in which somebody doesn't have playing time, or everybody is losing a little playing time.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you want with your second round pick?
That's
if this
the
was
thing.
A fourth round pick, I could really get behind it.
He's so expensive. Remember when Elly De La Cruz came in, hit the ground running, right? Like went crazy immediately. And I don't know exactly when we did it, but he carried a 899 OPS through his first 29 games. So somewhere in there, you and I had the convo, the whole, are people going to take this guy first, right? First round, is he going to have that kind of run? And we eventually came back around after he hit the cold streak. Like, remember when we said that? We were kind of crazy. Turns out maybe we weren't, because despite the big fall off within the season, he's still sitting here at the second round consistently. And I think it's because that even when Elly De La Cruz was struggling mightily, he was still putting up fantasy categories. So even with an 89 OPS plus, meaning he was 11% worse than league average on his slash line, he still put up 13 homers and 35 steals, Justin, in just 98 games. That's a full season pace that runs around 2060. And so I think that's what keeps people coming back, that even when he's struggling, he will contribute on the fantasy landscape. And I do believe that, but the cutoff point becomes, where do they then send him to the bench or to AAA if he's toting, a 580 OPS for 40 games or something? And that's my concern. I just can't take Elly De La Cruz in the second round. Not at all. I can't do
this isn't an indictment on like his talent or what I think he actually will do, because when I do his projection, I think it is going to end up having him as a top 30 player. Like I just do, because and I think, and this is the hard part about projections, is they can't necessarily, it's a median projection, right? Like this is what you think they're most likely to do, not what the extreme upside is or the extreme downside is. And when I'm drafting early on, I really think about what the extreme downside is because, if I lose my 18th round pick, who cares?
Who cares?
Right? It doesn't matter. I just go get the next guy. I lose my second round pick. Like, that is a big hole to fill in any size league. I don't care if you're in a 10 team league. Like, that's still hard to replace.
Absolutely.
Like, you can do it easier in a 10 team league than a 15 team league, but it's still difficult. And I don't want to do it, especially when there are guys going around him in the ADP that I go, like, hey, like, maybe Elly De La Cruz does have the greater upside, overall. But, like, is he that much better than Ozzy Albies? Is he that much better than Corey Seager? Is he that much better than Austin Riley? Like,
I don't think he's better than Corey Seager at all. Like, the steals matter.
If he reaches, let's say, his 80th percentile outcome,
yeah,
like, is he that much better than those guys reaching their 80th percentile outcome?
as long as I'm covered at steals, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I still think I'm fine with Seager there with the big batting average power that he's going to deliver, whereas Elly would have the power, the steals, and like a decent batting average at his 80th percentile. What do you think of the Steamer projection that says 21, 30, 246 in 539 plate appearances, 130 games? Sounds like they're projecting him for missing some time as well, whether it's being shifted in because of their depth.
Has to. Like, I mean, I think that the 540, 560 plate appearances, depending on whether you're looking at depth charts or Steamer, makes a lot of sense because even let's say he doesn't get set down. Let's say he spends the entire time at the majors. Because of his volatile nature, he will lose playing time when he struggles, right? Like, he may not get sent down, but he will not play necessarily every day. And with
especially if they're contending, by the way.
Yeah. And with the way the Reds are constructed right now. Like, if the Reds go into the season with the team as currently constructed, everybody loses some playing time. Or somebody loses a lot of playing time.
True.
And I tend to think that the former is correct. I think that everyone will lose some playing time as they just rotate pieces all around and try to try to optimize matchups and try to give guys opportunities and play the hot hitter. And the problem with Elly is when he's not the hot hitter, he'll lose that playing time. So yeah, I think
because he's really rough.
Yeah,
when he's not cooking.
So yeah, I will probably project him for 550-ish plate appearances. I will probably project him for around high teens home runs. I don't think he's a 20 homer guy unless he gets to 600 plate appearances quite yet, just because his launch angle is so low and he hits so many ground balls. I mean, we're talking obviously it's a short sample, but it was still 400 plate appearances. So he had a 54% ground ball rate, a 3.6 degree launch angle. I think he's probably a 230-ish hitter.
Is it the height? Like, he cuts down on the ball a bit, being so tall?
I think that definitely plays into it. And I think he's still pretty young and raw. Like, I think that
21 last year.
So, and doesn't mean he can't adjust. Like, he's one of those guys that, like I said, if everything went right for him, we're talking about a guy who's potentially like a 40-50 talent. Like, I'm not
I was thinking like 30, I was gonna say 35-70.
Yeah.
Just take the homers and double the steals. But
he crushes the ball. He has a ton of he could steal every base. Like,
he has Elly De La Cruz is in the top 5 best chances to do an Acuna at his best.
Absolutely.
Corbin Carroll, Mookie Betts, Elly De La Cruz. Is that it? Could anybody else even do it? Because I don't even know if Mookie and Corbin are hitting 41.
I want to bring I'm going to bring
probably
up
Mookie
here 600 and see what. No, I guess they were pretty close.
But like that's how crazy his talent. Never mind. Mookie hit 39 last year. Of course he could hit 41. So yeah. Mookie And Mookie would have to run a ton. I'm not saying that he would, but if you're trying to identify guys that could do an Acuna, a 41.73, Elly's in the
Absolutely.
short list.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just the risk, though. Here's the thing for me. If I'm taking this profile, why wouldn't I just take O'Neill Cruz? Much cheaper.
I think that is the argument, and I've seen the argument made a million times on social media. I mean, I think the argument against it is we don't know how healthy O'Neill
True,
Cruz
and he
is.
might not run as much because of it. It was a broken leg last
year. He also
year.
plays in Pittsburgh, which isn't nearly as. I mean, it's like the exact opposite part of Cincinnati.
Correct.
Though I mean, O'Neill Cruz. His power, I think, plays anywhere.
But it's 60 pitches picks cheaper too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not drafting either of them very often, if at all, because of, again, I just think both of them are boom bust, and that early, I'm not as interested in taking them. But I totally understand why people are doing it. I just think it is a risky process. And you and I talked with Rob DiPietro on the Paul Herter podcast last week. That's why we didn't record on Thursday here, because we were recording with him. And we were talking about kind of later picks in DCs, right? Rookies, injury risk players, or actually injured players. And I said, like, I'm willing to take 5 dart throws, or 5 caveats, as I called it.
Yeah.
I think if you take a guy like Elly De La Cruz or O'Neill Cruz, then that is one less dart throw that you should take later
I might even
on.
say 2. I might even say, because of the earliness of the pick, I might say it almost counts as like 2 of your dart throws. Yeah. If you take an Elly specifically at pick 23 versus O'Neill Cruz at pick 86. Now, O'Neill Cruz is no longer shortstop. I just want to be clear, since we're talking hot corner. I brought up O'Neill Cruz just because their profiles are similar. He's shortstop only. Elly is third and short. So continue. Sorry.
And I think the problem is the vast majority of people who take someone like Elly De La Cruz or O'Neill Cruz, for that matter, they compile the risk.
Yes.
They're not taking that one guy and then going, oh yeah, no, I won't touch Royce Lewis. I won't touch Byron Buxton. I won't touch this guy or that guy that is injury risk or starting in the year in the minors. They compound it.
They take like 3 of them.
Yeah, or more, like I did in my 2019 main event draft. And then by May, they go, I can't field a team.
Weird.
Yeah. So, like, if you're going to take the risk, I don't have a problem with it necessarily. I'm not going to. But if you do take the risk, do not compile that by taking other guys with similar risks.
No, I totally agree with that. And I've been of the mind previously at times of what we were saying on the former there. Oh, I took Elly, so I might as well just kind of stack the risk and try to shoot the moon. No, I'm going to go ahead. If I take somebody like Elly, which again, I'm not taking him. O'Neill Cruz would be more in my wheelhouse at pick 85. But if I were to take an Elly, then give me the boring old guys for like the next 5 rounds. And old being like 28 in this case. I'm talking like, I just want guys that are established. Yeah. So I'm taking Brian Reynolds and Christian Yelich and some boring ass pitchers or whomever. I'm just trying to think of names off the top of my head, but I'm really toning down the risk if I take somebody like that. And I just can't get there with Elly. I wish him the best. I hope it's a remarkably exciting season. Good luck to you if you take him, but pick 23 is way too expensive for me. I would be more inclined to take this guy just 10 picks later, has his own risk, but I think I'm more comfortable with Gunnar Henderson, who, by the way, I'll take a mea culpa on. I was not keen on him last year. Now, one thing I will give myself a slight back pat on is I didn't go victory lapping in May when things weren't good those first 2 months. I just said, I'm not going to do that. He wasn't a guy I liked, but I didn't think that he was definitely toast. And he did close with 4 brilliant months. June through September, 6, 5, and 6 homers in those 4 months for Gunnar Henderson after 5 through May. Really found his footing and took off. Ended up with 28 homers, 10 steals, 255 average, 100 runs, and 82 ribs on that excellent Orioles team. He is now pick 33, also third base and shortstop. And even though it's only 10 picks difference and he doesn't have near the speed upside of Elly, Between the two, I'd be more comfortable with Gunnar, even though I'm probably not taking either. What do you think of the the AL Rookie of the Year, Gunnar Henderson?
Yeah, I'm still not bought in at the level of where he's going. Like I
Well, yeah,
understand
because
what,
last year he was, sorry to interrupt you, but last year he was picked 90. Now
yeah,
he's jumped up another level. But I just wanted to point out that I was wrong last year. He was worth pick 90.
yeah, he was. And I was wrong too because I said I wouldn't have drafted him there, and uh, I I was wrong about the results. I don't know that I was wrong about the process. He still can't hit lefties great.
Which
Um,
was a big concern that both of us
yeah,
shared.
even in like um even in like let's just talk about the second half because like you said, the first half he struggled and then he really turned it on around June. But like in July, he hit 200 against lefties. He hit 239 against them, which I guess is fine in August. And then he hit 188 against them in September. Like he still struggles against left-handed pitching.
Mm-hmm.
Now he makes it work because he's so good against right-handed pitching. That like I don't think this is necessarily. I'm not saying like Gunnar Henderson is going to bust, but I don't. Again, I think this is a very similar situation with Elly. Not nearly as drastic, but I don't know that the price bakes into account the risk, which
Oh, it
is if
definitely
he's
doesn't.
dog crap against lefties, at some point the Orioles will platoon him, and then that's a problem.
Yeah, because they have options.
Yeah, they
Somebody
got a
like
ton
Jordan
of options.
Westberg could come in. And like it doesn't have to be directly at third. They can maneuver things
Mhm.
around, move somebody over to third to get Gunner out against lefties. And those supplemental plate appearances can hurt, especially at pick 33. Like you're right, he didn't do well, 618 OPS against lefties. But you need those 20 runs, 3 homers, 11 steals, or excuse me, 11 ribbies and 4 steals to make his numbers worthwhile at pick 33. So you can't afford to lose that volume. And that does make him risky again. Now, am I going to double down and say I'm fully out on him? No, I respect the talent that Gunner has, but this price is a lot higher too, so I'm probably still not going to have him. But I am intrigued by how strong he finished. My question for you with Gunnar Henderson is he a 10 to 12, 13 guy on the steals, or is there a world where he's dropping 25 plus? He had 22 in 2022 at double and triple A combined, 22 for 25. Is that in the cards at all, or is he going to be one of these 10 to 15ers, Gunnar Henderson?
I think he's probably a 10 to 15er for the most part. I mean, there is a world in which he just runs, right? Like we saw this with former Oriole Manny Machado
Yep.
when like he 0-0-1 20 stolen bases.
So
Like,
frustrating
like
too.
like it just would come out of nowhere. And like I think that a guy like Gunner, like if the team lets him run, if he decides to run, like yeah, I think he could steal 20 bases. I definitely think that is in the cards. But would I project that? No, I'm going to project probably 10 to 12,
Yeah,
and then
that's where I'm at.
kind of see where it goes from there. I don't think that this is, like I said, I don't want people to like walk away because every time we have these conversations, I've had so many people push back on me at Elly, like, and they kind of bastardize my argument. Like I don't think that this is uh I don't think Gunnar Henderson is a bust. Like I don't think like you were going to draft him and go, oh, you may say he lost your league if he doesn't, perform exactly as projected because people do that. But
Correct.
like I don't think Gunnar Henderson would be the reason you lose your league. But I think there is a downside that the ADP isn't accounting for.
I think that's totally fair. And that's the whole point exactly that we're saying with Cruz and Henderson is that like they have a chance to meet this price, but they have a
Mm-hmm.
bigger chance to not. And even
Yep.
if that not is they were worth pick 80 or 90, yeah, that doesn't kill you, but it hurts. And I'd
Yeah.
rather just take guys I'm more comfortable with. And so then we jump down again to another big risk, but at least it's another 20 picks cheaper. And that's Royce Lewis at pick 54, coming off a 15 and 6 homer steal season with a 309 average in 58 games because injuries struck yet again. So the market is buying, right? They're buying the short sample here with Royce Lewis. Super upside as a former number one overall. We know the talent, the health is obviously the big hurdle. At age 25, is he ready for the big breakout? What about Royce Lewis? You paying pick 54 for him?
All right, so this is the one where I've said I've gone away from what I said I was gonna do. And in my defense, it has a lot to do with the price that I got Royce Lewis at. But I have
Okay.
drafted Royce Lewis twice
I love it.
in 5 drafts. I'm trying to bring him up real quick. I got him at the end of the 4th round, so I picked 58 in a Gladiator. And then in the current draft that I'm in, where I got him in the close or the middle of the 5th round, so it picked 67.
Hell yeah.
There's a ton of risk here, and this is not how I like to draft. And every time I have done it, I have kicked myself for doing it. But man, like, this is a guy who can't stay healthy, but if he does, holy crap, I think that this is a 1st round pick.
Same.
And
And I
this
want
is
in.
not how you should be drafting. If you're in a 10 or 12 team league, I totally get it. I can't imagine that Royce Lewis ends up on any of my big money drafts.
He might still find a way onto mine. I love him
Yeah,
so much,
I
dude.
know he will for sure. But he will be, I promise you, he will be like one of the first people I throw out at Tout
In
Wars or
auctions, yeah.
in my auctions, because he will soak up a ton of money, and I have zero interest in drafting him in those spots. That being said, even I fall victim to like pie in the sky, because like I said, he could legitimately be the best player in fantasy this year,
Well, and then,
if he stays healthy.
everything that we're saying about like Elly and Gunnar and how we like them, this comes 20, 30 picks cheaper too.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
like, if you do want to take that kind of big risk, he can do virtually everything they can do.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he's not got 70 steal upside like Elly does, and Gunnar doesn't either. We talked about that. But I'll take 20 with 30 homers and a 300 average and a 100. Because if we're talking upside here, not projection for Royce, but his projection's pretty high. 28-13 with a 270 and 80-80. Like, that's a
Yeah.
pretty nice projection for 138 games, which 138 games itself is a big what if. But man, I just, sometimes you got
And
players that you just love and they make you buck some of your trends and practices. And Royce does that to me. He makes me a
and
little bit of a hypocrite.
in Royce, what he does do that is different and better than a guy like O'Neal Cruz or Elly De La Cruz is the batting average.
Mm-hmm.
He has not had a season at any level, any stop at any level, in which he has hit below 300 since 2019.
Love that.
Like, all he does is hit the ball, and he hits it hard, and he
And we saw
steals
him
bases.
dominate the
And
fall league too, remember?
yeah, before he got hurt, there, everything is there for him. The only part, and this is the big part though, is the health.
Yeah.
And I did have a little bit of pushback, like, oh, just because like he tore 2 ACLs doesn't mean like he's injury prone. Like,
Well,
one, I don't know that it makes him a bastion of health either.
yeah.
And two, like, that's not all he's done. Like, he missed time last year in the majors. This is a guy who continuously misses time.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a ton of risk, in an unreal ton of risk. And if you draft him, you should be very cautious the rest of the way. But like I said, I've had 5 drafts, 3 that I've completed, 2 that I'm currently in, and that doesn't even include the AFL one that we haven't restarted. But I've drafted him twice. Maybe it's the last 2 times I draft him. It would not surprise me if that is the case. But I'm very transparent about who I have and haven't taken, who I will and I won't take. and I have made the plunge on Royce Lewis. Like I said, I've regretted it after, but yeah, like I totally see the upside. I don't think the price is outrageous in the same way it is outrageous for a guy like Elly De La Cruz, or even Gunnar Henderson. Though Gunnar Henderson's risk is not near what Royce Lewis's is. And so I'm willing to. I've been willing to take the plunge. Like I said, I don't think I would again. I've got my shares now. I can be done.
I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm
I know
in.
you are.
Yeah, like I've made no bones about how much I like Royce Lewis. I will take the risk. Again, it's coming cheaper than the other guys. I talk a lot lately in the last few years about how if everything's there but health, I'll take that gamble. It's still a gamble. I fully admit that. I'm not saying it's not. But I don't need certain skills to come through. I don't need his plate approach to get better. I don't need him to lift the ball more or run more. I need him to just be Royce Lewis. And if he's
You
healthy,
just need him to stay on the field. That's all you need.
exactly.
It's just,
And
hey,
that's
stay on the field.
and that's a big gamble with guys like this. Oblique and hamstring injuries added to his issues last year. But I love him, and so I
Yeah.
will take him. Kim, we talked about, like I said, at second base. Go back to that episode if you want to hear more about him. Josh Jung, pick 109. So now we jump down a bit here. But I put him in the next stars because while he doesn't have the same upside as Cruz, Henderson, Lewis, I maybe could have put them in their own tier. But I brought Kim, Young, and Steer with them because I think all three of these guys could be part of the next big group of third basemen. Young's the only one we're going to talk about because Steer was discussed at the first base in the first base preview, and we've discussed the Reds a ton. What about World Series winner Josh Jung? 23 homers, 70 ribs, 266 average. Did well. I guess the one thing that kind of stood out to me is I thought that the strikeouts were going to come down last year because he talked about getting better at that and that he was kind of selling out for power, and I kind of bought into it. I was like, oh, okay, the batting average will go up, he'll get the Ks down. The batting average did go up. 266 is fine, but the strikeouts were still there. Can we get a 270-30 type season out of Josh Jung, or will the strikeouts have to come down to get up to that sort of peak?
No, I think they can still happen. I mean, he makes league average contact in the zone. Yeah, he does swing and miss a bit, but I think that is just a product of how aggressive he is. And I'm okay with how aggressive he is because I think that how hard he hits the ball and how much he makes contact with that aggression will be fine. So, like, he's probably never going, or well, I don't want to say never. He's probably not going to have like a 280 batting average.
That's fair. Yeah, barring a big change.
I do, if he stays healthy. I know he had a minor injury that made him miss some time. That's why he only has 515 plate appearances. But if he stays healthy, which I would think there's a pretty good chance of, like, I see a 30-90 season coming at some point. And maybe even this year. And I feel like of all the guys that like had massive rookie campaigns, he's like the least talked about. Like, I feel like he's one of the overlooked ones. Maybe it's because he doesn't run. And
I don't even think he gets as much juice as his teammates. I think somebody like Evan Carter and the guy who hasn't even been in the majors yet, Wyatt Langford, I think the two outfielders are getting more heat than Josh Jung. Now, he's got a higher ADP than them, so it's not like he's completely forgotten, but he's not being talked up. He's kind of like a ho-hum, pick 109, I'll take Josh Jung, no big deal, without any chatter about his upside to go 30-90 or even 30-100, depending on where he bats. If he stays in the 5 spot, maybe it's 30-100 with this team.
And, like, I mean, here's the thing, like, he reminds me a lot of a young Austin Riley. Like, he really does. Like, he's aggressive. He hits the ball hard. Is that in the range of outcomes? I think it is.
Sure.
And I think the floor is a lot safer than a lot of the other guys we talked about. And so, like, if you want to stay a little risk averse, but you also want some upside, wait on third base a little bit and grab Jung. I think he's a really, really good option at his price.
Yep, I'm totally with that. I've gotten him on a team already. Probably won't be the only one. Josh Jung, really, really like what he can do. And I think a repeat is fine, but there is upside there. Well, obviously a repeat with volume too, because he did get hurt. So if I can get 144 games instead of 122, even better. All right, let's talk about the old guard here because this is a very interesting group. Manny Machado at 73, Nolan Arenado at 101, and Alex Bregman at 108. Can they be trusted is the main question. Let's start with Machado because he's got the big rain cloud above him with the injury. And that's really where the questions come from with Manny Machado. He went 30-91 with a 258 average last year in 138 games. 30-91, not bad, considering he didn't play his normal 640 plate appearances. He's about 40 shy of that. But now we've got the injury. And so that's the real question with Manny Machado. Are you taking the discount?
I haven't yet. I think I'm okay taking it as long as we get good news come spring training time. And I just don't.
It's an elbow surgery, by the way. I should at least point out what the injury is.
And the reports that I've seen are that they are hopeful that he'll be ready for opening day, but that he won't be able to play defense more than likely. That he'll probably have to
DH.
Yeah, that'll probably be the regular DH. There's some risk to that. And there's a risk there's a setback and he misses large periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
Here is my argument. Since 2015, obviously not including the 2020 season because that, is shortened. He's had at least 28 home runs in every single season.
Yep.
He has hit at least 256 in every single season. Like, you've gotten at least 85 RBIs in every single season. I mean, I don't know if there's a more bankable player at the position than Manny Machado when he's healthy. So, if the reports are good coming into drafts in March, that he is going to be on the field and he is going to play every day, maybe it's not at third base, maybe it's at DH, then yeah, I'm in, especially on this discount. Until that moment, though, I'm probably out. I'm probably just staying away because there's so many other options in this area and above it that I'd rather take the gamble on.
So you're not inclined to maybe take a little bit of a gamble because here's the thing. If the news comes out strong in spring, I think Machado jumps.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm okay with that.
If you believe in him, I think there is some notion of like, well, let me buy now so that I can get my discount if you're a believer. But I understand if you have some trepidation like you do, Justin, and you say, well, I don't really want to take that risk because I don't know. It may be good, it may not, but I'm not gonna go for him. I like Manny Machado quite a bit. I think he is really, really good. It is a little nerve-wracking with the elbow for sure, but I am taking the discount. I'm not going to overload on him, but as a multi-leaguer, I think I want to get at least one share at pick 73 because a couple spring homers and he's pick 50. Easy, if not higher.
And so I'd be fine with pick 50 too. If
50 is fair.
50 is totally fine with me. Machado was a guy that I was willing to take in early second round last year. I didn't get him in a lot of spots. But like, even if like last year was a floor, so to speak, and you got 30-91.
That's fantastic.
I love that kind of floor. Machado is the type of player, obviously injury aside, that I love to draft early in drafts because I know he's bankable.
Yep. And if we can get that health consideration, we'll feel pretty good. Okay, well then maybe you just go here instead. You wait about 30 picks, 2 more rounds, and you take this guy who showed his downside last year, Nolan Arenado, with 26 homers and 93 ribbies in a down year, 266 average. We know how great he can be, though, and he's as consistent as they come. St. Louis hasn't done really anything to greatly undercut his offense. It's had a normal Coors to St. Louis discount on the batting average and stuff, although even in 2022 he hit 293. Are you taking the Arenado discount without the health concern and thinking of him as a bankable guy?
Absolutely. I mean, if I wanted to right now, I could go run out and grab an energy drink and just replay what I've said about Manny Machado.
Exactly.
Because since 2015, he's had 600 plate appearances in every season. He's had at least 26 home runs in every season. He's had 93 RBIs in every season. His worst batting average was 255. He's a career 286 hitter. Like, he's about as bankable as you get, and there is no risk. And Arenado is one of those guys. Like, if I don't have a third baseman, by the time I get to him, he's going to be on my team. I haven't gotten him yet, but I'm going to draft him a bunch. Like, he's just about as bankable as you get. And not only was, last year was, I think, the floor. I think it was, it was obviously his worst season as a pro. It was a lot of people in St. Louis's worst season. Like, it was a nightmare of a season. They shut him down early just because they're like, why even, at this point, like, let him, like,
his back was barking, hurt. I think.
Yeah, he had back spasms. Like it, that to me was an organization going, hey, you know what? You don't need to play anymore. Let's not worry about it. Our season's over. Like, I don't think it was a real injury. I think it was just an opportunity to let him get off his feet for the rest of the year and just relax. So, like, I'm not worried about Arenado. I think he's going to have 650 plate appearances. I think he's going to hit 30 bombs, get 100 RBI and hit for, a 260-ish batting average, like maybe even 270. Like, yeah, I love Arenado. I think he is bankable stats. Those are the kind of guys I love.
Yeah, I'm not just going to repeat everything you said. I totally agree. Big fan. Think he's being underrated. Sign me up for that with Nolan Arenado. Sign me up for this guy too, but they're both third base only, so it's one or the other. It's got to be, obviously, with Bregman and Arenado. Sure, I could put one at corner. I'm unlikely to take both at the same time, though. Take them back to back. But I still love Bregman. I loved him last year. I didn't quite get the full power rebirth. I was thinking him healthy, maybe he starts creeping back toward 30, not the 41 of 2019. That was a rabbit ball. But I was wondering if maybe he'd creep up into the low 30s. He got 25. I'll take my 25.98 with 103 runs and a 262 average. I think maybe we just are done with 30 homer seasons from Bregman. Maybe he gets a pull happy season that gives us one more 30-something season. But I think for now, if we plan for 25 to 27 homers, 90-90 with a 260 average, there's nothing wrong with that. So if someone snakes Arenado out from under me, I take Bregman immediately and I move on. Any issues with Bregman there at pick 108?
Yeah, Bregman was a guy I ended up with on a couple teams last year, including my Auction Championship team, and I think in Tout Wars, largely because I think he's overlooked. Like,
Completely.
I think he's just like people just kind of go, he's boring.
Yep.
I'll take boring guaranteed production. 724 plate appearances last year, 656 the year before. I know he dealt with some injuries, but he changed his routine. And the last 2 years, it's really, really shown. Hits in the middle of a fantastic lineup in a park that's built for him. Yeah, I think he's probably a mid-20s homer guy. But like you said, like, hey, is there a world in which 33 homers isn't out of the question for Alex Bregman? No. I think, especially with the way he pulls the ball and those Crawford boxes, like in Houston, like, I think that could definitely happen. But the runs and RBIs are so important and so under thought about, I think, from, like, there isn't really that much of a reason why Alex Bregman shouldn't be going at the exact same spot as Josh Jung. Like, I don't know that they're that.
Well, in fairness, he is.
Oh, okay. All right.
Their ADP is right the exact same.
And so that's right, because I think maybe Jung has better upside because we just haven't seen it, but they're kind of the same guy, aren't they? Like, except for Bregman walks.
You can kind of throw Arenado in there, right? All three of them is like a young, medium, old version of like 25-90.
Yeah.
And then the batting averages vary between the three a little bit.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things I'm doing in early drafts is I'm kind of playing around with roster construction, right? I'm going, okay, this draft, I'm going to start this way. This draft, I'm going to start that way. And I want to kind of see as I get to the middle rounds and then the late rounds, especially, like, okay, how does my team look? And what is my favorite kind of way to put together the puzzle? And I think what's going to end up happening is I'm probably going to stop taking so many shots on guys like Austin Riley and stop taking so many shots on guys like Devers or even J Ram, though J Ram is like different because of the stolen bases.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pass on those guys for other talents and then take one of these three guys, the Arenado, the Jungs, the Bregmans, because I think they offer pretty good value and pretty good, like right in production. Like I can just write it down what they're going to get and know, and I'll fill in the gaps and stolen bases in the other spots.
I couldn't agree with that more. Yeah, like we spoke of the highlights of Devers and Riley and how viable they are. They really, really are. I don't mind if you take them there, but as you look deeper, why not just wait for Arenado, Bregman and go elsewhere there? You want to get that ace, maybe you've done a few drafts and you're like, I keep coming up short in pitching and I got Devers and Riley on these teams. Boom, take an ace there instead, get yourself an Arenado, Bregman, Jung later, and you're getting similar production, right? Those guys are more 3,100. These guys are 2,590. Give me the 2,590 with an ace as opposed to the 3,100 with a much lesser pitcher there in the rounds that those guys are going. Maybe not much lesser, but a lesser pitcher. So I like what you're saying there about team construction and playing with that. If you are a multi-leaguer and you do, 3, 4, 5 winter drafts, you should be doing some different things, or else I'm not sure you're getting the best value out of those drafts, assuming you're using it to sharpen your knowledge of the player pool and see different things that happen. Because just drafting 5 of the same team, it's like, okay, well, if you're good, those might be successful teams, sure. But I'm with you. I like to kind of see what's what, because then March hits and that's when the big drafts come, usually the higher dollar ones for me and you. And so we want to sharpen our skills so that when we go into those drafts, we don't have a bunch of questions. We feel confident about how we want to attack the pool, the things that we can do, and the things that we can get away with. And these are the drafts that you are practicing for that. So I think that's a great thing to point out for sure with third base. And it's going to put me in this old guard tier quite a bit, even if that means not getting a ton of Royce Lewis. Because as much as I love him, I can't get 8 shares of him at pick 54 and have him go out in April. And then my teams wouldn't all be ruined, but they would all be severely damaged. So
you'd have to do a lot more work on a lot more teams.
Exactly.
Might ruin your season.
Exactly. So I'm probably gonna get 2 or 3 shares across my 8, 9, 10 teams, and that's it with Royce Lewis. But I really love this old guard tier for sure. But we're gonna go ahead and cut it here for part 1, and then you know what? I'm gonna commit to us finishing the third base preview next episode. We're not doing a 3-part third base. I just have to pee very badly right now, or else we would keep going. I'm just going to be honest with you. I really, really have to pee. So we're going to end right now.
Don't hold it in. That is not good for a man.
That's what I'm saying. I'm too old to be holding it in.
Yeah.
So we're going to end here. We'll get together on Wednesday or Thursday. You and I will figure out what day works better for us, and we will finish third base. We will only do 2 parts for third base. So even if we get hot stove moves, we will still commit to finishing the hot corner. But Justin, I'm going to go de-thaw and use the restroom. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.